Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's kick off this video with a story about a shipping label printer that cost a small company far more than it bargained for and taught management a lesson about underestimating expertise. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. They fired the printer guy. Guess who they had to pay to fix it? Many years ago, back when manufacturing was still booming in our area and floppy disks were still king, my husband worked as the warehouse and shipping supervisor for a small manufacturing company. Computers were strictly for office tasks, and dot matrix printers ruled the day. Those bulky machines that spat out reports on endless streams of green and white striped paper with perforated edges. It was a different world, to say the least. One of the more cutting-edge tools at the time was the shipping label printer. This magical machine had replaced the tedious process of handwriting every label, which was still a fresh memory for most of the staff. It required some pretty specific setup, too. You had to manually input the label size, set alignment coordinates, and hope the software and printer didn't have a falling out halfway through the print job. My husband was the only person in the warehouse who knew how to operate it. He'd set it up, troubleshoot it, align it, and keep it running. And for a while, that made him indispensable. But eventually, the way management treated him, undervalued, overworked, and generally dismissed, got old. He finally had enough and found himself a new job, a better one, with better hours, better pay, and no more babying outdated technology. He gave his notice professionally and even tried to be helpful during his exit. When he handed in his resignation, he advised the plant manager, let's call him Bob, that someone should probably be trained on the shipping label printer. Bob, ever the visionary, waved him off. "Don't worry about it," Bob said. "We'll figure it out." My husband just shrugged and let it go. Less than an hour later, Bob came storming back into his office and told him they were ending his employment effective immediately. No 2-week transition, no farewell lunch, just, "You can go now." Cool. My husband packed up his things and walked out without looking back. On the way home, he dropped by his new employer, and they were thrilled to bump up his start date. He'd begin working there in 3 days. Everything seemed to be falling in place. But not for Bob. By the time my husband got home, our answering machine was already blinking. It was Bob, clearly flustered, leaving a frantic message. "Hey, listen, we need you to call us back. No one here knows how to use the label printer." Instead of calling Bob himself, my husband turned to his ever-capable secretary, me. "Want to have some fun?" he asked. "Absolutely." So right as Bob was getting ready to leave for the day, I gave him a ring. Calm and professional, I offered a solution. "I'm calling on behalf of my client," I said, trying not to laugh. "He's available for short-term consulting work to train someone on the label printer. His rate is $100 an hour." You could almost hear Bob's jaw hit the floor. "$100?" he sputtered. "That's ridiculous." I kept my voice steady. We believe his expertise is worth that, but of course we're open to negotiation. Bob grumbled something about checking with the owners and said he'd get back with me. He called back 10 minutes later, offering $15 an hour, barely more than my husband had made as a full-time employee. I told him I passed the offer along, but it wasn't looking promising. Another call, another counter. I returned with a new offer, $90 an hour. This dance continued for over an hour. Every time I hung up the phone, my husband was practically rolling on the floor laughing. At one point, I actually heard Bob sigh and mutter, "I can't believe I'm negotiating over a damn label printer." Eventually, after many rounds of back and forth, we landed on $35 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. Bob was desperate, and we both knew it. They had critical shipments scheduled the next day and no way to label the packages. We had leverage, and we used it. The next morning, my husband showed up, smiling, fresh coffee in hand, and walked Bob through the process. It took less than 30 minutes to teach him how to load the labels, adjust the margins, and print them out without jamming the thing. That was it. Half an hour of work for $70. Best deal he ever made. He walked out of there without so much as a backward glance. Bob looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. And as a bonus, a few months later, my husband ran into one of his old coworkers who said Bob still couldn't get the printer to work right on his own. Apparently, every few weeks, they'd have another mini crisis over labels. Some people never learn. And that's why you always listen to the person who knows how to work the machine. You asked for 100 and they countered 15? When you called back, you should have asked for 110 and kept raising until they got the hint and stopped playing silly games while they were desperate. And our second story. 3 years of bad parking, 1 video, and a criminal charge later, Linda finally learned her lines. I've lived in my condo for a little over 3 years now. It's a decent building in a good area, nothing too fancy, just quiet and functional. The kind of place where people mostly mind their business. Unfortunately, mostly does not include Linda. Linda's my next-door parking neighbor, and she's a walking, talking case study in how not to park a car. We have assigned parking spaces in a small, tight lot behind the building. Mine is in between a retaining wall, and Linda's, it's already a bit of a squeeze, so you need to park properly. And by properly, I mean between the lines. Simple concept, right? Apparently not for Linda. She cannot park straight to save her life. She's always parked over the line into my space. Not by a little, I'm talking full tire over the line, sometimes nearly into my driver's side door. There were weeks where I had to slither out through the passenger side like a damn contortionist or just drive around the block until she left. At first, I chalked it up to a one-off. Everyone has a bad parking day. But nope, this became her routine. I approached her politely multiple times. Each time came with that same sugary fake smile. Oh gosh, I didn't realize. Won't happen again. Spoiler, it always happened again. I even started snapping photos and filing complaints with property management. Their response? A shrug. Maybe a half-hearted email blast reminding residents to be courteous in shared spaces. Nothing changed. Fast forward to last week. I'd had a long day, appointments, errands, rain, the works. I pulled into the lot to find, yet again, Linda's car well over the line, practically hugging my space like it owned it. There was about 6 inches between her car and where mine needed to go. And that's when I snapped. I parked in my spot, perfectly I might add, right up to the line and got out the only way I could. Slowly, carefully, and with my door pressing directly into the side of hers. I'd warned her repeatedly. For the next several days, I kept parking the same way, and surprise, she kept parking like a jerk. At that point, I was done accommodating her. Then one morning, I came out and saw it. Deep, angry key marks down the entire length of my driver's side door. Not a random scratch, deliberate gouges. And just to really bring it home, a note under my windshield wiper filled with profanity, insults, and a threat to call the police if I blocked her car again. That was Linda's big mistake. Because what she didn't know is that I have a security camera installed above my balcony that points directly at the parking lot, originally set up to deter package thieves, but boy did it come in handy. I pulled the footage, and there it was, clear as day, Linda dragging her keys across my car and slamming her door into mine. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I filed a police report, handed them the footage, provided time-stamped photos from the past showing her chronic overparking, pressed charges for vandalism. The officer didn't hesitate. She's now facing criminal charges and is legally obligated to pay for the full cost of the damage. New paint job, panel repair, the works. But wait, there's more. Once I showed the footage to the property manager, who previously acted like this was beneath their pay grade, they suddenly perked up. Linda got slapped with a formal citation and a warning. One more incident and she loses her parking privileges entirely. That means she'd have to park on the street, which is a nightmare around here. And oh, how the tables have turned. Now she parks perfectly within her lines, as if a measuring tape is involved. Her car's so far from mine you could fit a lawn chair between us. She won't even make eye contact when we pass in the hallway. Guess she figured out that karma drives a steel-belted Goodyear. So let this be a PSA for all the Lindas out there. Park like a jerk long enough, and eventually someone's going to stop being polite and start being strategic. My car's looking better than ever. And Linda? Well, let's just say she learned her lines. The only follow-up I'd suggest, send the property manager a short email confirming Linda's new compliance and asking them to keep the incident on file. It protects you if she tries anything again, and reminds management that prompt action prevents drama. Enjoy the newly reclaimed 6 inches of breathing room. You earned every millimeter. And our last story. She was so sure she had power, then she met the actual boss's sister. I work in a high-security tech startup that designs medical AI tools. It's one of those hybrid companies, part high-stakes innovation, part chaotic think tank. Because of how specialized the work is, we've always had a small rotating crew, people in and out for deployments, client visits, research trips, etc. Everyone from top-level developers to field agents pitches in when needed. No room for egos. But we hit a point where we needed someone steady at HQ to handle data entry, file transfers, phone calls, and all the basic admin stuff. Enter Kendra, our new office assistant. She started while I was off-site setting up a mobile diagnostics rig. When I returned a few days later, I had a few reports and hardware kits to drop off before picking up my 6-year-old niece for our usual Wednesday routine. So I strolled into the office that morning in jeans and a tee, kit in tow, case of equipment under one arm and documents in hand. Nothing unusual for our team. The office is casual, timing is fluid, and everyone knows everyone. Well, almost everyone. The moment I step in, I'm greeted with, "Can I help you?" from a woman I assume must be Kendra. No name, no smile, just a frosty stare over her keyboard. She's probably mid-20s, very put together, and very clearly unimpressed with my scruffy look and tiny sidekick. I nod and say, "Hey, you must be Kendra. I just need to drop these." She cuts me off. "Put that stuff back there, but not the papers. Don't put them on my desk." I blink. "Okay, where would you like them?" She snaps. "They're not my problem. Just don't leave them here." So I try again politely. "These need to be entered into the database. Should I hand them to you, or is there a drop tray?" She glares. "How about you stop pushing your work onto other people and just do it yourself? Also, kids aren't allowed in here. That's a safety issue." My niece, bless her, looks up at me with wide eyes, confused and clearly hurt. I crouch down to reassure her and say, "We won't be long, sweetheart." But Kendra doesn't stop. She says, "You know, just because your mommy lets you run wild doesn't mean I will. Go wait outside." My niece starts to tear up, and at that point, I'm done pretending. I straighten up and look Kendra in the eye. "That's not going to happen. And we're going to have a talk about your behavior." "Oh, really?" she scoffs. "Then take it up with the CEO. I'm running this office the way I've been told to. He trusts me. He said I could do things my way." Funny she should mention that, because not 5 minutes later, Miles, the CEO, and my big brother walks in the door. My niece lights up and runs to him, yelling, "Uncle Miles," and he scoops her up laughing. He spots me and says, "Hey, OP, didn't know you were back already." Then to Kendra, "You've met my sister, right? One of our co-founders?" Kendra freezes. "She's been handling the bulk of our international partnerships," he adds cheerfully before glancing at my niece's face. "What up, kiddo? Someone not being nice?" Kendra goes pale. I decide not to air her out in front of my niece yet, so I just say, "There's been a misunderstanding. We should probably have a chat about office expectations in the morning." Miles immediately picks up on the tone. "Sure, Kendra. If you could leave your keys before you go, I'll close up for the day. We'll meet first thing tomorrow." Her face? I wish I had a camera. She knew. Except, plot twist, she didn't come back the next day. No text, no email, no call. Just vanished. Poof. Technically, she didn't get fired, but let's be real, that was a one-way exit. She had 2 weeks on the job and could have had a great gig. Her work was fine, but she decided to play power games on her second Wednesday, assumed she knew the pecking order, and blew it. And the best part, we never even needed the security footage. The silence of her not showing up was satisfaction enough. I love how she tried to wield, "I run this place my way," like a power move, only to realize a few moments later that she'd been unwittingly targeting a co-founder. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.